When I left school, I wanted to do dressmaking, but I couldn't get into an apprenticeship. Then the careers officer at school said, Alders have a vacancy for trainee curtain makers, but 2 vacancies, and I'm a twin, and she came with me, and we both got interview at Alders, and we both started at the same time. Unfortunately, she can't come here today because she's on holiday, but it was quite nice that we both started at the same time, did our apprenticeship for 6 months under somebody else, and then we went out on our own and did our own making of curtains, and that's how it all started.
Can you tell us in what age you started?
15 and a half. I left school at Easter 68 and then went straight into work and left at Easter 77. So I was there for 9 years till I had my children, or my first child anyway. But I liked it there. I mean, I didn't have any problem. We worked clocked in at 8 o'clock, finished at 5 o'clock. We had an hour hour lunch break, 2 tea breaks, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. 40-hour week, Monday to Friday, and that was it. And I stayed there for 9 years. So.
What was it like coming into it? What was it like starting at Alders?
A bit nerve-wracking. I mean, at 15 and a half, you're a bit still naive, really, aren't you? And it's a bit daunting, but it worked out all right, and we got on with our ladies that were training us, and everybody else. I mean, obviously, some places you can't like everybody all the time. Sometimes you have a little bit of an argument or disagreement, but other than that, it all went fine.
So what was the team like? How many people?
I think there was about 15, and there was obviously manager, curtain fitter, and his apprentice who used to go out and fit the curtains. There was a packer, a man who packed all the curtains up for customers to pick up, and that's about it, really.
Can you sort of paint a picture for me of what it was like and what was the room?
Well, it was a big long room, huge, great big tables. I suppose the length of these tables, which obviously you laid the curtains out and lined them out and made them all up from that. I think there was 1, 2, 3 on one end, 4 down, because it's in two sections, but it was open. Some of them down far end made loose covers. I didn't do those, they're a bit complicated for me. And we just all generally got on. We finished one job, packed them, folded them up, packed them up, took them to the man who was going to parcel them up, and then went on to the next job, which was it varied. Some were big, lots of curtains, some were only tiny, some were pelmets, some were bedspreads, cushion covers, and things like that. So quite a varied amount of different sewing jobs that you did, really. I enjoyed it, I must admit. And when I did leave, I carried on doing it at home. So that's all I've ever done, never done anything else. So. Well, we used to have to pattern match all the materials together, make them up, press them up, do the hems, line them out, measure them, make sure you've got them right, then put the tops on them, either the pinch pleating or the tapes and things like that, iron them, make sure they was all nice and prestige, and then that's how they all went out. Sometimes it was complicated. Some of the matches were different because on some materials you had a drop pattern, so you had one pattern there, and when you joined it up, the other pattern was down there. So we had to do one bit of material, one length, and one was another. So therefore it went up, down, like that, which can be a bit complicated, but you get the hang of it in the end. I mean, it was very daunting at first, but you learn to do it as you go along, really. I know the one thing that we did do when we first joined, we had to be tea girls. Because your last one in had to make the tea every time, which wasn't too bad. So you just made a cup of tea for everybody else, tea break, washed up the cups, then went back to work. So that's, as I say, I really enjoyed it, the 9 years I was there. So.
What was the atmosphere like? Were you all working in silence? Was it
No, we had the radio going and sing along and muck about, as you would normally do. But it was quite jolly. I mean, you got all the noise of the machines going all the time, but some of those were noisier than others. I think we just sometimes just turn the radio up a bit higher. So it's all jolly. I mean, we didn't really get told off that much. We didn't mess around too much. We could go to the loo when we wanted to without any hassle. Go and have our dinner break. We could go out and have our dinner break if we wanted to, or bring your sandwiches back in and sit and have them at your machine.
And how was the social atmosphere between the colleagues?
We did used to go up into the canteen a few times, but we weren't that keen on it really. So that's why we used to take our lunch, go out and get our lunch and bring it back. They did have a couple of nice Christmas parties or Christmas get-togethers, but they had it joint with grants for CROYDON. So grants for CROYDON and ALLDERS for their Christmas dues. We all went down to the Orchid at Purley and had a Christmas party in there, which was very nice because that's where I met my husband. So it worked out quite nicely. So yeah, socially it was fine. I didn't go to many of the social dues, but they were there if you wanted to do it. So yeah, I enjoyed my time there, I must admit.
So tell us about that. So you met your husband. So was he working at Grants?
No, he worked in the town hall, Catherine Street, British Gas. But he was there with a friend who worked in Grants, and that's how we come to meet. So it was quite nice to have to say that's where we met. So that was the social side of it.
So when was that?
We met in 69.
So you hadn't started long then?
No. It's quite young really, I suppose, to leave school, isn't it? I mean, I didn't want to work in an office because I'm not that sort of type, but I wanted to do dressmaking, but I couldn't do that. So that was the next best thing. So I was still sewed, which is what I wanted to do in the first place. So, yeah.
And you talked about the social dues, and you mentioned Christmas. What else was there? Was there every week something happening?
There were other things, but I don't think I went to many of the other. I suppose because I met my husband, we just used to do our own thing after that sort of thing. But I'm sure lots of things went on. But I think some of the dues they did have up in the canteen up the top of ALLDERS. I think I did go to one of those, if I remember correctly. It's a job to remember, 40 odd years ago, isn't it? So, but as far as I remember, I enjoyed it, and it was worth the 9 years I was there. And it taught me a trade, and it's something I can do to this day if I wish to. So.
Did you have many contacts to the other parts of the company or the other departments?
No, not really. I haven't seen many of those for a long time. I did bump into a few of them, but I haven't seen any of them for a long time. I should think the majority of them are no longer here because a lot of them were a lot older. So I don't really know who else is around. Probably the younger ones. When I left in 77, they were bringing more younger people in to learn the trade, but I never met any of them. So.
But when you worked there, did you have many contacts in the two other departments?
A few, but because we were right at the top of the building, we only went through the shop when we were coming in and out, through the shop floors and things. There was one lady I did know, and I still know her now. She worked, I think, in the curtain department, in the actress hall, in the ready-mades and things. But I don't know if I'm going to see her today or not. I don't know if she picked up on the internet on it or not. So, other than that, no, I haven't really seen anybody. The trouble is that people move away and then you don't really see them anymore. So, but I think, me and my twin sister, we enjoyed it. She left before me, but because she moved, and she did work from home, still for ALLDERS, but did homework for them. But I stayed on till I had my children, and that's it, really.
So what was that like? You'd always been with your twin sister and then she moved out and suddenly you weren't.
No, it's fine, because even though we're twins, we were quite independent. You know, like you get some twins who really do everything together, but we didn't. We did our own separate things. Like, you know, it's a shame she couldn't come. I did ring her and ask her to come, but they're away on holiday. So, but
You
I
said
think
when you started, you were tea girls. And so how long did that last before the next person?
until the next juniors come along. I suppose it might have been, it was longer than 6 months anyway. Might even been a year before they then had new juniors come in, then you lose that job and they get that job. But I suppose it's part of how they used to work, isn't it? The last ones in do some of the horrible jobs, as it were. But I mean, making tea wasn't that bad. I mean, it's only about 15 cups of tea. Everybody had their cup of tea and a biscuit, washed up the cups and went back to work. So it was nice.
And how was your relationship to the superiors, to management, to a team leader?
Fine. As I say, I didn't really have any problems. I mean, we just got on with the work. May have had a disagreement here and there, but no more than anybody else working. I never had any hassle. They did me 40 hours a week, got paid, and I didn't worry. Pay wasn't much, but at the time, it was all in relation to what everything else costs, you know. I mean, it was £5.10 is what I earned, which isn't much, is it, for a 40-hour week? But it was all in relation to the period, isn't it? So, but money gradually went up as once the 6 months training was over, then we got a rise. But it is what it is, isn't it? But you could live on that. You couldn't live on it now, can you? So,
You said you had the 6 months draining period. How was it conducted at the time?
sorry?
How was it conducted at the time?
Well, we had a lady who we worked under. She then explained everything, how the curtains were made, and demonstrated to us, and then you just followed what she did on various things, and just pick it up as you go along, really. And obviously she then had to see how you sewed and all this sort of thing, and it is could be quite complicated to start with when you're only 15. Quite daunting, but it's what we wanted to do. It's a job, and we enjoyed it. So there you go.
Is there something that you particularly remember making and you think, yes, I'm really proud of that? That was really difficult and I did a great job.
I made some huge curtains like this for a school stage, and it was in blue velvet, and they were huge, probably about the length of these, but they had a pelmet across, like right across, and that was 10 lots of bits of material joined together. It was absolutely huge. And so that was the biggest job I had, and the worst bit was drawing up the headings at the top, because you've got the cords. You can't cut the cords off, so you have to do them up in little bundles. But it worked out all right, and they put them up, and they were very pleased with them. So that was all right. And then when I learned how to do fitted bedspreads, because you have all the pillar gussets, which is an oval shape, you piped along, then you put the frills in, then you lined them, sewed all round. So various bits, pelmets, cushion covers, and things like that, whatever anybody wanted. And I found it very interesting. But yeah, I liked it.
I'm imagining the sewing room full of blue velvet. What was that like to take over the whole room?
Some of them did. They were some of the curtains were absolutely huge. And sometimes you'd have to have somebody to help you. You line one side and stitch the lining to, then you fold it over, pull the fabric along to do the next bit, and some of them, when you've got lots and lots of folds, somebody will have to help you to move them, because especially with the velvets are really, really heavy. And some of the prints were quite, Sanderson's prints and things like that, they were nice to work on because they were very, very, very jazzy and lots of colour, with flowers and birds and things like that. But they're quite nice. They were good to match up when you joined them together. I think that was half of the fun, really, to match them all up and have a bit of fun with them. But, I liked it. It's a different world, I think, to what it is now. I mean, mostly all now it's ready-mades and just go and buy them in a packet. But I've never actually, in my whole life, ever bought a pair of ready-made curtains. And when I fed up with mine, I just go and make some new ones. And that is how it is. I'm sure my sister's the same. She's never bought any either. She gets fed up, oh, I'm going to make some new curtains. The only problem we have now, trying to find material to make them. Because all the places, I mean, like ALLDERS used to sell it by the yard. I'm saying yard because that's what we use. But now you've either got to go on the internet or I don't know where else, because you used to be able to get them in Debenhams and places like that and fabric warehouses, but they're all closed down. So you have to go on the internet and hope that you like it when it comes. But, yeah, I liked it.
Did you have direct contact to the customers?
No. We only had direct contact with the customer if something had gone wrong with the measurements. Say the man who went out to sing and the lady didn't want the curtains taken away from their house. So then sometimes I would go out with the curtain fitter and alter the curtains in their premises. But not very often, didn't happen very often. But we could do that if we wanted to. And I mean, if as long as no machining was involved, it was just hand sewing and it needed shortening, then I could do that there and then, at their premises. But if there was a big mistake or something, then they would bring the curtains back to the workroom and we'd alter them there. But luckily, most of the time it wasn't my measurement, so it was the fitter who's made a booby. But in general, as far as I can remember, everything went according to plan. I say, we're not perfect all the time. Some things did go wrong, but it wasn't anything that couldn't be put right. So.
What's your biggest disaster?
Sir?
What was your biggest disaster?
Can't really remember. I don't know if I did have any very big ones. Maybe a couple of, when I was joining them together, perhaps the seams wasn't correct, maybe. But I can't really remember making any. I obviously did make some, because nobody's perfect. But I really can't remember any major ones. So, that's it.
It sounds quite exciting going out to people's houses when normally you're in the room.
Yes, it was nice to get out and have a change of scenery, It was, we was only probably out for a couple of hours, but it was a couple of hours away from the workroom, which passed the day a bit more. Some days, like, time drags, but it was all right. I liked it.
Did you have a special kit that you take with you?
Well, obviously scissors, needles, tin pins, yardstick, because it was yards then, and an iron if you need to, and a rough bit of old piece of cloth that you could put down on the table if you needed to re-iron anything. But other than that, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Could you explain if I'm the customer, I need some new curtains.
Yep.
How is the process? To whom do I go there?
Well, you would have to make contact to obviously who's going to make them. And if you wanted somebody to come to your house to measure up, then the curtain fitter would come to your personal house, measure them up for you, talk to you what you would like, and then you would choose your fabric, if it was okay and whatever. Then it would all be written down on a worksheet, what you require, the measurements, how many widths, and then you say, okay, yes, can you make them for me? It would then go back to the workroom with the instructions and the material, then somebody would make them for you. Somebody would cut it all out for you. A different lady cut them, all the materials up and the linings for you, and then gave them to you to start sewing and put them all together.
So how would you get that? Would it be a big package or something?
Yes, they would all be cut out, folded up, and then put a couple of bands around them with the worksheet on them, with the instructions. Then the lady would you finish one job, you go and get another one, and she would give you the bundle of fabric, and then you start working on them from there. And once they're all made, you then take them to the man who passes them all out. He would check them all, put them, wrap them in brown paper, address them, then get in contact with the customer for them to be picked up.
Was it mostly just one curtain, or were you doing whole houses at a time?
Sometimes there were whole houses, but a lot of the time there were probably 2 or 3 rooms per house, or may even just be one pair of curtains. It just depends on what each customer required, really. So, as I say, I didn't do loose covers because they're very, very complicated. And they already had 2 or 3 people who made that, specifically only made those. So the actual curtain making is what I stuck to, really.
So what is a loose cover?
Loose cover is the cover that you got your 3-piece suite or your armchairs, and they make a pattern of it and put it together, and then these loose covers go over your settee and your chair. If your settee and chair is a bit worn or something like that, and it was cheaper then to have them made than go out and buy a new suite. So, but they were very, very complicated because you've got different bits for the arms and the back and the seat, and then you've got all the piping round. No, a bit too complicated for me. So, but I like to do things that grow quickly. So you could make a curtain, make it up, and it's done, you know. And I enjoyed making bedspreads, because at the time they were fitted bedspreads and just went over your bed, but and cushions and things like that. So pelmets were quite nice to make, which were hard pelmets, which like these have got these valances things. These were hard pelmets that you braided at the top, braided at the bottom, and then lined them at the back. And then the fitter would go and put them up, usually on a pelmet board like these are. So
how long would it take to make a pair of curtains?
Depends how big they are, really. I mean, you can make probably a pair of these this length, probably in about 6 or 7 hours, if that. Depends. You can go straight through. I mean, you can make them in a day, less than a day. But, each one's different. Sometimes you can zoom through. If they've only got ordinary taped headings, if they're pinch pleated, then you have to work out where to put all your pleats and machine them down and then hand sew them all in. Mostly all hand sewn, apart from the tapes at the top. But, I enjoyed it.
Have you taught your kids to sew as well?
No. There's no way. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter won't even sew a button on. You sew, Mum. I'm not. Yes, but you can sew a button on. Oh, no, I can't be bothered. You're better at sewing than me. So, what did you say yesterday? She had a hole in her dress yesterday. Mum, can you do my dress up for me? Only takes a few minutes. I said, Emma, you can do a needle and a cotton. No, you're quicker at it now, eh? And my sister, elder sister, who's also a dressmaker, her daughters are exactly the same. They don't sew a button on either. I suppose it's us, we spoil them, I suppose, really. That's it.
Do you make clothes just in your personal life?
No, no. As I say, that's what I wanted to do, but there were no apprentices around at that time. So that's why I went into curtain making and done it ever since.
So I'm just thinking back to something you said earlier about when you went out for lunch breaks. You'd sometimes go out for your lunch, and I can imagine it was quite a different high street then. What was that like?
Yes. Well, we always they used to in the ALLDERS arcade. I don't know if you've ever been through that bit. It's closed now, but they used to do like a little cafe thing, and you could go and buy little cups of soup. We used to go and get some soup, and then we'd go down the market and buy some fruit, and just come back and sit and eat it in the workroom. As long as you didn't spill anything, you'd be in trouble if you did. But we always sat at our machine. Most of the fabrics and that were on the huge tables anyway, so and we could make a cup of tea if we wanted to. At an hour, we had a tea break at 10 o'clock. Dinner time was 12 to 1. Then 3 o'clock we had another tea break and finished at 5. So then that was it. Yeah.
So did you go shopping sometimes in your lunch break?
Yes. Well, it depends where you wanted to go. We obviously didn't have an hour. It goes very quickly. So by the time you get your lunch and whatever, but it did give us time to go and do a bit of shopping, come back and bring it back. And then at 5 o'clock you can just go straight home. So it's good.
What about your colleagues? Were they only female women?
Yes.
Only?
Yeah, we had the manager, was my man, curtain fitter, and the man that packed the curtains up, and a junior. So there was 4 men, plus the junior curtain fitter. But I mean, the manager was there all the time, the packer was there all the time, but the other ones went out, did the fitting and the measuring and things like that. But majority of us, it was all women. So.
All ages?
Yes, we were the youngest, and I think, thinking about it, I should think the oldest, I don't know, it must have been 60 odd, I should think. So, we're a lot older than we were. We were the youngest, obviously, as time went along. Yeah, I liked it.
So tell me about the building then. So the shop's down. What's up?
Well, if you were to stand on the corner of Crown Hill there, you know where the bank is, Barclays Bank, and look up to the corner where the almshouses are, if you look right up into the roof, you see a green window. That's the workroom. But it goes obviously more or less the whole length of the top part. But that from the street, that's the only bit you could see. So next time you're there, you look up, you can see the green, I don't know whether it's paint or tin or whatever it is, but that's where the workroom is, or was. So you'd have to go through the shop, go all the way up to the top, clock in, then go all to the workroom. Then at night time you then go back up there and clock out, then go home. So.
What else was up there at the top?
Sorry?
What else was up there at the top?
No, it's only the workroom.
You said the manager's office was?
Oh, and the manager's office, but that's it. And we obviously the sink and things like that. The loo was down the staircase. But if you come in from the far end, there was another little workroom there, which was the alterations for dresses. So that was another little department. But that was all what was on that top floor. So apart from the other side where the building goes a bit higher, that's where you go for clocking and places like that. Yeah. You'll have a look now when you go down to Crown Hill and have a look at the top.
What would you do with it? If you had it?
I don't know. It's a big building, isn't it? And it's attached to the almshouses, so they can't touch those. So I don't know what they can do with it. I mean, they tried before, didn't they, renting it out, and then that didn't work out, so I don't know. Unfortunately, Croydon isn't as nice as it used to be now, which is a shame. But I suppose it's part of where we live, you know, the era, I suppose. I don't know. It's a shame. But I mean, when I was young, I mean, it was quite busy. You know, we had Debenhams there, you had the arcade, they had the animals at the end of Debenhams arcade, where they had animals and things, and it was really, you know, I'm only going back when I was little, but obviously things move with the times. I don't know whether sometimes it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but it's just a shame Croydon is not as nice as it used to be. I don't know if I should be saying that, should I?
So what do you think?
But it is a shame, I must admit, because it was a nice town, and now, I mean, this is the first time I've been here for 18 months in Croydon, because I don't come. I usually end up in Bromley or somewhere like that, which is a bit nicer shopping centre. But if it became nice again, then you'd bring me back. But at the moment, I don't feel comfortable coming on my own.
You mentioned animals at Debenhams.
Yes, where Debenhams was, they had like an arcade, like ALLDERS had the arcade. It had an arcade right down, and it came out at the bottom of 5th Road. You know where the Crown Hill is? Go down there, there's a right-hand turn, there's a road there. The arcade went down to the end, and at the very end, I suppose it's like a little pet shop, really, where they had small animals and that which the kids could go and look at. I mean, that's going back, I don't know, it's got to be going back in the 60s, late 60s or something like that. That's as far as I remember, anyway. But it was interesting, and as I say, the kids liked. I mean, I think they sold rabbits. Didn't actually sell them, but they kept them there so the kids could go and have a look and get an experience of seeing small animals, I suppose. But I mean, you can't do that now. There used to be pet shops and things like that now, but I don't think there is now, is there? I did do a little bit of work from home once I had my daughter, because she was such a good baby, didn't cry very much. And I got bored, so I approached ALLDERS, and they just delivered me some curtains that I could make at home, and then they came and picked them back up again. So I kept my hand in that way, and then when my second child came along, I packed up for a little while, then went back to it and worked for somebody else. So that's all I've ever done. So.
Afterwards, you never thought about going back?
What, to ALLDERS? No, I didn't actually. I made curtains from home. I had a big table like that at home, and just used to carry on doing it. It was something a trade I could do while the children were at school. I could go, if there's a problem, I could go and pick them up, and I wouldn't have to worry about somebody else picking them up or babysitting them, because I could fit what I was doing around them as well. So that's how it all worked out, and I enjoyed it. Still do. I don't make many curtains now because I'm a bit older, but obviously once you've got a trade, you never forget how to do it. And every now and again somebody will say to me, "Oh, can you make this curtain?" Yeah, well, you have to go and get material and I'll make them for you, and it works out okay. So I've got a weak eye, and it keeps weaking. Yeah, so. But I don't do an awful lot now because I do a bit of bowls, long bowls, so that takes up my time now. So, but I can still do curtains if I wish to. As I say, it's a trade that you never forget, really.
Must have been a strange time with the baby on the way and knowing that you weren't going to be working there anymore.
Yes, yeah, it's sad. As I say, I was there for 9 years, so, but you have to move on, don't you? If you want children, you carry on and whatever. But I did enjoy my time there, I must admit. A bit up and down here and there, but that's how it goes, isn't it?
In what way?
Sometimes it was like any job, sometimes you think, oh, don't fancy going in today, but I must admit I wasn't ill very often, touch wood, I never am now. But sometimes you always get somebody who's always ill, wherever you go. We had one lady who didn't do a full week. She always had one day off every single week. I don't know how she got away with it and how she still stayed there, but she never ever did her full 40 hours. So she must have had her money drop for it, I don't know. But how she had a manager let her stay there, I don't know. But she did, but that's not my business anyway. So. But I liked it.
Did people come and go much?
No, not really. I say it's a trade that most people stuck to. You know, obviously when you have the children, you then leave, and that's the only time that people tended to go, really, or if they moved away, which is what a lot of people do. But no, more or less, all the people who were with were there when I left. So they were there the 9 years that I were there. So apart from the couple of new ones that came in as juniors, but, I enjoyed it.
So was the team getting bigger whilst you were there then?
Yes, I think it was bigger by the time I left than when I started. So I think it's just that they were just trying to get more people in to learn the trade, because otherwise it's a dying trade, isn't it? I think it is now, really, because I don't hear of many people learning the trade to how to make curtains, really. I mean, it's all right, ready-mades and things, because they're all done on a machine and knocked out and lined out on the machine and turned inside out, and that's it. But I prefer to do it by hand, which is what I've always done. So.
What's the mark of a really well-made curtain? What do you look at if you're looking at a hotel or something?
Well, you look at the actual corners, because in the corners we like a diamond shape. Make sure all the weights, because you had little lead weights that put in little bags and sewed in the corners and on each seam, so that it keeps the weight down and it keeps the seams and the corners nice and square. So that they're quite nice. So I did make some for a club, and when I went along and had a look at them, somebody thought there were pennies or something in the corners and took them all out. Because they're round, I suppose the size of a 2p or a 10p. And they obviously thought, oh, somebody put some money in there, and went along and took the whole lot out. But they come unstuck because they were lead weights. But you see funny little things, really. I know, funny old story, but there you go.
But did that happen often, going to see your curtains out?
Not very often, but every now and again. I think people just get curious. Because they were sill high, and people walk along and touch them, they think, oh, it felt like a 10p or a 2p coin. And they think, oh, let's have a look. So they pulled them open and pulled them out. But they come unstuck because they weren't coins.
Yeah, I meant, did it happen often that you, or I guess that thing of seeing your own curtains?
Yeah.
Is that something that happened much?
Sorry?
Seeing the curtains that you'd made up out in the world, is that something that happened much? Because you see those ones were from a club.
Oh yeah, I've seen quite a few, and they do look quite nice, and I think, oh yeah, that's quite nice. Are you pleased? Yes, very pleased, thank you very much. And that's it. Didn't see many of them, go to many of the houses to actually see the full view of everything, but every now and again you'd go out and have a look, and if they were very, very pleased, then the curtain fitter would come back and say, the customer would like you to come and have a look, which was quite nice, but it didn't happen very often. But it was nice to be able to go out and actually see your work hanging up. And you think, oh, yes, the lady's quite pleased with those. And it was nice for me to see them. As I say, they're so different. If you land on the table and you finish working on them, you fold them up and then they're parcelled off, and you don't see them again. But it was nice to be able to go and see a job that was done and dusted and fitted, and the customer was very pleased, and you go off and think, I did that. But not very often. So.
Did you manage to see those school ones?
Sorry?
Did you get to see those blue velvet school ones?
No, I never saw those, but good. I wouldn't be able to get up the ladder and put them all up. But the remark did come back, and every now and again you would get a letter come through to say how pleased the customer was, pleased with the curtains, and then the manager would bring it up and let whoever made them have a little read of the letter to say thank you very much. So, but not very often. But it was nice to be able to have a thank you here and there. So.
What was management like? Did you feel looked after with that?
Yes, I mean, I never had any problem with the management at all. We only really saw our manager in the workroom. Didn't see anybody from wages or anything like that because we were separate to the rest. If there'd been any problems, and the manager would come and say, "Can you go up?" Blah, 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 blah. But I did my 40 hours and I got paid. So really, I didn't need to have to go in to see the management or anything. And I didn't do anything bad, otherwise they would have come and got me. But I dare say some people may have misbehaved or whatever, but we didn't really see management. Only our manager of the workroom. And if he had anything to say, he would just come along and tell you or ask you to do this that way or don't do it that way again, and that sort of thing. But generally, everything went according to plan. So.
That's good.
Not very interesting, really, is it?
Did you hear stories?
Not really. Only what various people did at the weekend or something like that, and that's what started us all laughing and managed to look up and say, what are they on about? Or somebody said a rude joke or something like that, which is, when you get a lot of women together, they do laugh a lot anyway, don't they? Well, I suppose men laugh a lot when they're together. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So did you meet your colleagues outside?
Yes, we did used to go a few times, used to go out. I mean, well, before I met hubby anyway, but which isn't long after when I started, as it were. We used to go out and have a drink here and there, but not an awful lot really. Everybody, I think once we come out, because you've been there for 8 hours a day, people would go home and do their own thing. And we didn't, at 15 or 16, 17, we didn't go out as much as maybe they do these days, you know. And obviously other ladies met their husbands or boyfriends and things, and they did what they wanted to do. Then at the week after, on the Monday morning, you come back and tell everybody what you did at the weekend. But that's what we did, isn't it?
What was it to do in the middle of Croydon
then? Well, I suppose dance halls, I suppose, and cinemas. Didn't all go, well, 15, didn't really go in the pub that much, really. But, don't know. I don't think, me personally, didn't go out an awful lot clubbing and places like that because it wasn't my scene, really. And I met hubby at 17, so it was him I went out with, as it were. And we met friends, and then we did used to go to the pub and meet up as for foursome or six of us, and but socially we didn't really mix other than that, really.
Did you get married quite quickly after you married?
No, I met hubby at 17 and we got married when I was 21, so a little while. Then I had my daughter when I was 25, so, followed by my son at 27, and that's it. Two's enough.
When you left the company, how old were you then?
25. Mm-hmm. So I started Easter 68 and left at Easter 77. So
it was an important part of your life in a way.
Yes, it was, yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And other than that, I can't really say anymore.
Would you, I'm very curious about the working conditions and about the atmosphere there. I just see the 15 women working in a big room, together.
Yes, laughing and joking.
Yes, yes. What would you think is important? What would be important for today's life, for today's working atmospheres?
I think they've got to be comfortable, not too strict, but a bit of leeway for people to enjoy the atmosphere and feel comfortable, rather than just sit there pumping away on the computer and you don't talk to anybody. You've got to have a little bit of social contact, I feel anyway, which helps people to feel a bit more comfortable, a bit happier in their work, I think. Is that right? Well, that's my personal view of it all. And I think that's important, really. I mean, a lot of people can just sit there on the computer, especially now a lot of them work at home, they don't go out. It's nice to be able to mix with other people, I'm not saying all the time, because you can't be friendly with everybody all the time, but it was nice to have a bit more contact with the outside world and talk to people. I think it's important, you must talk to people these days, because you have so much people saying, oh yeah, I don't see anybody, this, that and the other, but I think it's important to talk, really, and to feel comfortable in other people's company and not feel threatened or anything like that. Do you think? Well, that's my personal view. I might be talking a lot of real rubbish, but that's my personal view, really.
It sounds like you also had quite high standards of work there as well, so it wasn't completely do it well. It was a good workroom. We had work all the time. The only time it slowed down a little bit was towards Christmas, when all the jobs were done that were promised for Christmas. Then January and February was maybe a little bit slow, as it would normally be, and then everything would pick up again. So we had enough work to last us all those years. So it must have been well known, because people came back, or like everything else, had a pair of curtains made in orders. They made them for me, go and advise you, and then somebody else would come along and say, oh yes, I have my curtains made here, and they recommended you, which is nice for the firm to be able to have more work coming. But I really don't know how it finished, really, how it packed up, because it was still open when I left in '77, and I went back a few times. So it's got to be in the 80s that it started to go downhill. Whether the orders, the orders for the curtains didn't come in enough, and they decided we needed to close down. I don't really know what happened in the end, really, or when the workroom closed down. So anybody could have gone up to the workroom, say I had a relation come in and needed to talk to me, they could go up into the workroom, knock on the door, and come and tell me what they had to tell me, then they would go again. So we wasn't restricted to let anybody come in if they need to. So it was quite, relaxed, as it were, for anybody to come in, or relation, or the only thing they didn't like very much telephone calls. So if anybody relation rung you and they rung through and the manager answered the phone, he would let you answer it, but he didn't really like it that much. But then I don't think that happened very often. I mean, whereas now you've got your mobiles and they just ring you anyway. But at that time, there's no mobiles around, was there? And but in emergency, you could ring them, and they will come give you a message to say, can you go, then give you permission to go home early, but sometimes you would go in a bit early or stay a bit later to make up the hour or so that you've lost, or something like that. So
it was give and take. You could go an hour, if you had an appointment, you could go an hour earlier, make it up the next day, or go in on Saturday morning and make up the hours. So it was give and take from both sides, really.
That must have been quite a different atmosphere if you went in early or on a Saturday.
Yeah, it is, because obviously nobody's there and it's a bit quiet in here, isn't it? But it did allow you to get on with to do what you wanted to do, especially if you want to do it quickly. But it's give and take, like everywhere. I mean, I don't know about now, whether they give or take or whatever, but I really enjoyed my time there.
But you know, when you worked there, when you talked to your friends and you said, oh, I work at ALLDERS, was it important to work in such a firm and such a company?
Yes, I think it was good. I think they were surprised that you say that I worked in ALLDERS. Oh, that's a good shop to work for. I said, yes, it is. Said, oh, where do you work? I said, oh, I'm in the workroom at the top. Oh, what department's that then? I said, it's the workroom. So, I can't come and see you. No, we're not on the shop floor. We were up in the gods, as it were. But once you explained it to people, because you think, oh, workroom, what the hell's a workroom? You know, but that's what we called it, and it was a workroom. But when you explained to them what you actually did for the work, then it all fell into place. But when you first used to talk to people about it, what on earth's a workroom? Well, if you've never heard of it, you don't know what a workroom is. But that's what we called it. Yeah.
I'm imagining you at 15 and a half going for that interview and what that must have been like.
It was scary because, I mean, we'd left school. We had the interview. It was Easter. I know it was Easter, so it's March. We were due to leave school because you could leave because I didn't do a secretarial course or anything like that because it's not my scene. So we could at that time leave at 15 and a half, which was the Easter. So we had this come up on this interview. So the careers officer said that ALLDERS have got 2 vacancies for trainee curtain makers. Would you be interested? So I say we, because my twin sister came with me. I said yes. So we went for the interview, and they said, right, start next week. Basically, so we left school a week or so before, had a week off, as it were, then started work. So it was a quick turnaround, really, which was quite nice. I mean, it was quite daunting for the interview, because you're 15, you're still quite naive, you don't know what's going to go on. But it passed, and he said, yes, we'll take you on, we'll train you, and see how you get on.
Were you interviewed together?
Yeah.
And were you accompanied by your parents?
No, we went on our own. Yeah, we went on. Well, 2 of us together was all right anyway, and yeah. So she made them curtains as well, and she left before me because she moved to Kingston with her hubby, and but she used to travel back and did some outwork for ALLDERS, but I stayed on longer until I had my children. So
how would that work if she was in Kingston doing the outwork?
She would drive up, park in the car park, go into ALLDERS, or hubby would, pick up the parcels, yeah, and then make them from home and then bring them back when she's finished. That helps out because at the time we had quite a lot of work, and some people would want their orders done in a week or whatever, and if it was possible. So sometimes you get a rush job and they say, oh, they want to. So sometimes you would stop what you were doing and start on another one, and somebody else would then help you as well to be able to get that job out, which the customer would rather like them to be done quickly. But usually I think each job that came in is probably 2 or 3 week turnaround from when the orders come in and they were cut the fabric was cut and parcelled up before it went to the person who was making them. So, yeah.
What about Christmas time? That's how you
Oh, it's very, very busy at Christmas time. Nobody could be off ill at Christmas. And even at that time, a few weeks before Christmas, if it was pushed for time to get some of the orders out, then we would go in on a Saturday as well and do the extra day, everybody to push it all the way along. But mostly everything went out a couple of days before Christmas and the fitter fitted them. And then we could all relax afterwards. But it could be hectic at Christmas because everybody, like everything, everybody wants them for Christmas, don't they? They do nowadays, don't they, for furniture and things like that. So, yeah.
And then did you get holidays as well?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think can't remember, I think we got 4 weeks holiday, I think, if I remember correctly.
And could you choose when to have it?
Yes. But obviously I didn't like too many being off. Couldn't have the whole workroom being off at the same time because nothing else would get done. So if you wanted time off, then you could go up to the manager and say, blah, 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 and he would look at his diary and say, oh yeah, you can have that week, or I've got 2 or 3 off that week, can you make it a week later, or something like that. So most of it was all round in a big circle, and you could choose. Mostly you got your dates that you wanted to be away, but as long as everybody wasn't away at the same time. So.
How about Christmas?
Christmas, you only, what did we used to get off? I think we had a week off at Christmas, which included, obviously, depends when Christmas fell really. So yes, we had a date when we was due to all come back, and then you had your week off at Christmas and pile all back in on such and such a date. Then you start, the vicious circle starts all over again. But no, I liked it.
Okay. Maybe finally, would you like to give us a little outlook? What would you think about the future?
It would be nice to be able to open it up so we could all go back in and have a look. Would be nice, wouldn't it? Really? Revamp it all, and whether they'll ever will, I don't know, because it's been empty for such a long time. But it would be nice if everybody would be able to just go in there, have a look around, imagine all the furniture and everything all in there, and so you can remember what it was like for the last time. But I don't know. I don't know whether the building would they make anything of it? I don't know. Who knows? They haven't done in the last couple of years. Been empty for a few years now, hasn't it? But a shame, really. Part of an end of an era, really, isn't it?